A new twist in the murder case involving a man who at one time was called the city's most dangerous criminal. A second witness was taken into custody accused of perjuring herself during the murder trial of Telly Hankton. The district attorney's office will retry the man once called the most dangerous criminal in New Orleans. The trial for Telly Hankton, the man once said to be part of a notorious crime family, ended in a hung jury.
The retrial continued today for the man dubbed the city's most dangerous man. Telly Hankton is accused of killing Darnell Stewart back in May of 2008.
His most high-profile murders. Federal investigators say police arrested the wrong guy. Michael Anderson was accused of shooting 5 teens in Central City back in 2006, but federal prosecutors say he was not the one responsible.
And instead, they're pointing the finger at Telly Hankton, a man who's been called the crime boss of New Orleans.
So peep game, damn near everybody know New Orleans creates reputations from the street up. Central City stands as proof. The community is tight, but the environment is pressure, forcing young men to carve out an identity or get erased by the streets. That was the landscape that shaped that boy Telly Hankton, the youngin' who became known as Wild long before the feds and the NOPD labeled him a criminal mastermind. Josephine Street, one of the bloodiest blocks in Central City, raised him inside a family where bonds ran deep and loyalty was a must. Multiple generations under one structure, learning to maneuver through a city and never bothered to pretend it cared about kids in the struggle. Inside the house, love was real. Miss Shirley kept food on the table even when money was tight. Adults making sure children understand respect within those walls. All it took was stepping out onto the porch to see the hood followed entirely different rules. Guns, bloodshed, and murder were common. Street corners were contested property. Caution wasn't a suggestion, it was a threat. Police presence came and went without changing anything. The system wasn't designed to help the hood and everyone knew it. If you wanted a future, you had to build it yourself. And majority of the time, that future had sharp edges that cut like a razor. As that boy Telly grew, he developed a look in his eyes that set him apart. Determined, focused, calculating. He didn't need to talk much to make his intentions understood. By the time that boy was a teenager, people recognized he wasn't drifting into using dope like many other dudes out his hood. Telly was studying, he was planning. He watched other hustlers waste potential and disappear under dirt or through courthouse back doors. That would not be the path that boy wanted to take. Nickname Wild came during the stage of his life when he was doing his thing. Not from any case file, but because he defied caution every time he rode a bike or ATV down the Ave, popping wheelers and shit. That boy towed through traffic in tight city blocks wearing no helmet, balancing danger on the back wheel or whatever four-wheeler or bike he controlled. Every stunt channeled gravity and dared the pavement to claim him. When he wrecked hard enough to be stitched up in the hospital, they say that boy smirked through the pain. It became a mark of how far he was willing to go without fear. That fearlessness began translating into influence. By early adulthood, Telly started claiming authority on the very blocks that raised him. The environment rewarded those who kept order. The Hankton family gradually built standing in Central City over decades, and that standing evolved into what law enforcement would later refer to as the Hankton Criminal Organization. That's the type of move the feds go with when they want to hit you with a CCE. According to federal investigators, this wasn't a loose crew. Them dicks said it was a structured network operating narcotics distribution, moving firearms, and executing violent enforcement to secure dominance. They connected family members and trusted associates to the same operation. They documented the pattern. If someone challenged their area, consequences followed. This wasn't viewed as a hobby. It was a system built to hold territory, get down or lay down type shit. During the early 2000s, that system was tested and violently defended. Law enforcement records describe a sequence of killings tied to control, money, power, and respect. A major part of that timeline centered around the murder of Jazz Daiquiri Lounge owner who captured the killing on his shop camera. Owner was hit up later, so was his brother. Authorities eventually framed the motive as retaliation to keep the so-called criminal enterprise insulated from legal threats.
The man wanted for a murder on South Claiborne is now in custody. New Orleans police say tips from the public led to that arrest. WDSU reporter Travers Mackel is live at the crime scene now with details on this. Travers?
Yeah, Scott, a major development in this case. Less than 12 hours after the police ID'd 35-year-old Walter Porter as the gunman in this case, he turned himself in. The 35-year-old surrendered to sheriff's deputies. He's accused of shooting 61-year-old Curtis Matthew last Saturday night. Police say Porter shot and killed Matthews. Matthews' brother was a key witness in the high-profile murder trial of Telly Hankton last month. John Matthews testified that Hankton shot and killed a man back in 2008. Police believe the murder of Curtis Matthews may have been retaliation for his brother testifying in that trial. The mayor says Porter was ID'd by many people calling in and telling police about his alleged involvement and where he could be found. The mayor says this arrest sends a message.
We, the people of New Orleans, are going to make sure that we can live in this city in safety and in peace.
This city is in control. Safety comes from all of us saying this is enough.
Now, we should also point out that we asked Superintendent Surpass about the specifics of this case. Do they have any ballistics, DNA evidence, or eyewitness testimony? And he tells us it's under investigation right now, but he does believe they have a good case and have made a solid arrest after Porter turned himself in. Scott?
And Travis, in recent days, the mayor, the police chief have pleaded for the public's health in this case, the public's help in this case, and really in the end, the public came through in a big way.
They absolutely said that. They said that they could not have done this without Crime Stoppers, without the public. After this murder last Saturday night, they said somebody has to know something, and we urge you to call in. They upped the reward. Mayor Mitch Landrieu putting $10,000 of his own money from his campaign war chest up. So therefore, they are giving a lot of credit to the public, saying that they were receiving a vast amount of phone calls in this case.
Another incident placed the timeline deeper in blood. The death of Darnell Stewart, a.k.a. Derny, on Claiborne Avenue became a Central City horror story. Investigators stated the vehicle intentionally collided with Derny's whip before shots were fired, and that boy was flipped more than 10 feet in the air. The name attached to that ambush would eventually be that boy Telly. The streets already understood what that meant and what it was behind. The federal filings, they caught up later. At that part, while no longer symbolizing kid pushing his body to the edge, popping wheelies in the street, while symbolizing man linked to violence controlling multiple blocks in the Josephine neighborhood of Central City. Newspaper referred to that boy Telly as a major figure in organized street crime. Prosecutors describe him as the head of a violent criminal organization. That boy's presence defined boundaries in the city. Everybody knew if it was up, it was stuck. By the late 2000s, the spotlight intensified. Indictments grew heavier. In October 2012, the U.S. government issued a superseding indictment, naming 13 defendants, linking them all a while in what they defined as the most violent criminal enterprise the city has ever saw. Racketeering, murder in the aid of racketeering, drug distribution conspiracies, firearm charges, a timeline reaching back to the mid-1990s. Every legal document stacked that boy wild reputation into something prosecutors aim to dismantle forever. But indictments rely on witnesses, and witnesses need protection. Let's put it like this year. Them shits is easier said than done. According to the Fed, the 2011 retrial of Telly Hankton exposed how unsafe witness protection truly was in New Orleans. The Time-Picayune documented real fear. People who cooperated lived nervous and restless, unsure if the system could shield them from retaliation. It relocated some, but that rarely lasted. Street ties and hood connections in the city were too strong, too interconnected. Danger traveled faster than government resources, and the people who was complaining about the food stamps last month. Witnesses felt exposed. Some disappeared from the legal process. Others took chances in court, but never relaxed after stepping outside the building. The failure to guarantee their well-being wasn't hypothetical. It was real, and every person considering testifying knew the risk. Say one word, and it just might be your last. Still, the federal government passed forward anyway. The courtroom became the battleground the streets once held. Prosecutors laid out trajectory motives and affiliations through testimony and evidence. The weight of multiple deaths shaped the narrative. Each piece of information was closer to conviction. In June 2016, after a 3-week trial, the federal jury returned a series of guilty verdicts: murder in aid of racketeering, RICO conspiracy, drug distribution conspiracy, firearm involvement leading to death. The charges charges formed a one-way road to a cell. On November 9, 2016, the sentence came down, life in prison. Dudes was jumping on that boy Telly case left and right, trying to come home. All of them was on some real snaked out rat type shit.
It's also a conspiracy case. It can be a conspiracy, but not in a statement after the fact not relating to someone who was not part of the conspiracy. I understand your objection. It's noted. Now, if I can get back to after you had that initial conversation with Porter, did you have any specific conversations with him about his participation in the killing of Tutu? Yes, ma'am. And what information did he tell you? He told me that he had took a hit from Telly to kill Tutu. So, did he tell you how he connected with Telly? Yes, ma'am. And what did he say about that? He said that Aaron Smith hooked him up with Telly. And he said he connected with the hit with Telly. What else did he tell you about that? Well, he told me he was riding around the area Tutu was supposed to be hanging at, but he never knew how Tutu looked. So when he passed, he just felt that Tutu was out there because they had a gang of dudes out there. He called Telly Hankton. They met up. They got in a car, him, Telly cousin. And when they passed, they saw him. They U-turned. They pulled up. Telly cousin was shooting at the crowd, moving the crowd. Telly jumped out, ran down, shot Tutu like in the leg, and Mooney said he came and he emptied both of his clips from both of his guns in Tutu's face and body. Did he ever tell you that he got paid for that hit? Yes, ma'am. Did he tell you who paid him? Yes, ma'am. Telly. Okay. In those conversations, those particular conversations, did he ever tell you who Telly's cousin was? Not at this time. Okay. When he was having that conversation with you, did he ever mention whether there was anybody on the scene of Tutu's killing? Yes, ma'am. He went, what did he say about that? He said it was a guy named Hockey, that he ran with a gun, and that Hockey had made some type of statements against Telly, and that they had found out through, like, a female detective who was supposed to be kin to Telly, worked at the 6th District, and that he had got the address from her, and they paid him to kill him, too. And were you aware of who Hockey was? I kind of knew him because he had brought my baby mama to Tutu's funeral.
Once the sentence took effect, the life that boy Telly had control outside ended. Power dismantled by steel bars, concrete walls, and constant 23-1 surveillance. A man who once dictated the pace of an entire district was now ordered when to stand, when to eat, when to move. So picture this here. That boy Telly refused to allow confinement to be the end of his life. Prison records show he pursued education aggressively. GED completed, multiple vocational and trade courses secured. That boy built structure during isolation. He directed focus toward learning because the alternative was mental collapse. He spent hours reading instead of pacing. He applied the same intensity once used to control the streets into controlling his own progress. Time inside didn't erase the past, but reinforced its weight. Central City transformed while that boy Telly worked through appeals and paperwork trying to get that time back. Gentrification crept in. New storefronts appeared. Some of the old homes was demolished. New owners replaced the families who couldn't afford to stay. Josephine Street still held memory in every painted curb, in every boarded up window. Even today, residents recall how influence once worked. Dudes rolling slow on pedal bikes used to signal incoming trouble. Men hopping out of whips with burners could shift the atmosphere of the entire block. Respect wasn't given, it was enforced. The hood remembered the days when Wild controlled his own destiny. They remember knowing which blocks to avoid, which houses not to hustle in front of, which hours required kids to stay inside. Telly's name still carries conflicted reactions. Some people out the hood consider him a protector who shielded them from external threats. They believe the area had a stronger unity when Telly maintained order. Others hold anger, recognizing the debts connected to that era. They look at vacant lots where children should have grown into adults. They feel the void left by those whose futures ended early. That boy Telly's story became a reference point for understanding what happens when the city neglects certain districts and the ops disrespect everything you stand for. When the state fails to provide safety and opportunity, other forms of authority rise. Those forms may not follow the legal standards of the courts, but they fill power vacuums left open for too long. Josephine Street functions as a living archive. It doesn't rely on written records. It carries the truth through changes in scenery. As businesses swap hands and homes are remodeled, history does not vanish. It remains under the surface, ready to confront anyone who claims the hood has always been peaceful.
Firing.
Bullets came through here and went through my wall.
There's a hole there, a hole here, holes behind the sofa. It sounded like a war zone. A war zone, high-powered machine guns in this city.
Children who missed that period of chaos still learn what it meant, not through bedtime stories, but through remnants left behind. Bullet marks, memorial murals, empty chairs at family gatherings. The ground itself documents everything. Years after that boy Telly Hankton, investigators still reference the trial as one of the most intense federal battles against entrenched street control in New Orleans. Prosecutors consider it a necessary strike against an operation too powerful to ignore. Defense teams argued the government overreached, but the verdict made the government stance final. Now the man once known for tearing up Central City streets spends his days under controlled conditions. His schedule relies on the decisions of others. He directs energy towards programs that allow growth, because growth, the one thing still obtainable. That boy Wild has plenty of time. Time to dissect past choices. Time to think about alternate outcomes. Time to calculate what each step costs. Meanwhile, Central City continues adjusting. Community works through new problems while trying to heal old scars. Many still struggle. Others move forward with momentum that didn't exist before. But no one denies that a major chapter of neighborhood power ended when the sentence came down. Transformation of Wild into an inmate did not resolve the story. It simply relocated the next phase. The city moved on physically, but mentally continues to assess the years molded by that boy's influence. There are no legends applied here, no myths stamped into the concrete, only facts hardened through testimony, police files, and lived experiences. A young man raised in a part of the city overlooked by institutions learned to build authority his own way. That authority demanded consequences and produced casualties. It's also built a structure some residents depended on. Complexity defines the entire narrative. In prison, the present becomes routine. There's no maneuvering through avenues in late night hours, no motorbike engines roaring through intersections, no crowd presence to acknowledge, only the reality that power now looks different. Central City doesn't erase though, it keeps everything: pain, progress, mistakes, memories. The story of Wild remains in that balance, a reminder of what ambition and force achieve when opportunity and support are withheld, a reminder of the price paid when enforcement becomes personal business rather than public duty. The official record calls his sentence life. The hood calls this period outside unforgettable, and the truth stands firm. Josephine Street raised him, shaped him, empowered him, and now holds his legacy for every new resident who believes the pavement under their feet has always been calm. The city continues forward, but the past stays present because history doesn't depend on those still walking free. History stays in the soil, in the infrastructure, in the way the communities remember. Wild's era ended in a courtroom. His influence continues, not because he directs anything now, but because impact lingers long after the action stops. For better or worse, Telly Hankton remains stitched into Central City's identity, a piece of its structure, a part of its truth, a permanent chapter of its timeline.